What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC 282. We have Magomed Ankalaev going against Jan Blachowicz.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we're back breaking down UFC 282 from a DraftKings perspective. Looking forward to the card, looking forward to it from a DraftKings perspective as well. And hopefully it's a good one. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have not already, if you want extra content, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. You got the stats, targets, rankings, projections, lineup optimizer, articles, and much, much more on dfsbythenumbers.com. A ton of stuff you do not see on YouTube here, but no time to waste. I say we get right into it. And as always, we're going to start with the fight doesn't go to decision lines. Up top, we have Salvador Silva minus 600. Fight doesn't go to decision, and I have a feeling we will never, ever, ever again see a flyweight fight with a fight doesn't go to decision line at minus 600. I see on DraftKings it's minus 750 for a flyweight fight to end inside the distance, but you can kind of see why. 33 fights combined for these fighters, and 32 of them ending inside the distance, to Silva not even seeing a third round ever. I think somebody's getting finished here. I think it's a great fight to target on DraftKings. You have someone in Salvador who's 8,900, and then you have De Silva who is 7,300. We'll be talking about them both more during the video, but yeah, you're going to want to have a piece of this fight. It's early on in the card. I think somebody's going down, and probably in the first round even. Next, we have Rozenstruik Dawkins, minus 325. Fight doesn't go to decision. Heavyweight fight, a fight that I do think finishes, and a fight that I do think probably finishes under 1.5 rounds as well. Rozenstruik, 8,700. Dawkins, 7,500. I think both guys have a ton of power. Both guys coming off knockout losses. So both guys can knock each other out. I think it's a great fight to target, heavyweight fight, and a fight that I think does as well finish in the first round. So another fight I do love targeting, both these fights so far. Next, we have Shahbazyan Lungiambula. This is a fight where I'm just targeting it from one side, and it's going to be the Shahbazyan side here, and he's currently sitting at 9,400. I think it's a big step down in competition for Shahbazyan, actually like a giant step down in competition, going from Imavov, Brunson, guys like that, to Dalcha Lungiambula, who's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. I think Edmund should have him covered pretty much everywhere here on the feet. I think he can mix in takedowns as well, really wear out Dalcha. And I don't think Edmund has shown the best cardio in his career, but he's going to have the better cardio here. I think Edmund's probably gets him out of there in the first or second round there. I like me some Edmund, but not going to be touching a ton of Dalcha. Could be a decent pump play, I suppose, just due to the fact that Edmund has dropped the ball a lot. But this is a fight Edmund really should win. And then we have a Simon Kozlow, minus 220. Fight doesn't go to decision. Simon, big price tag here at 9,300. Then Kozlow, 6,900. I think both guys are in play. Simon has shown some great power. Kozlow's coming in on short notice. Kozlow's a guy that's never seen the second round in his career. But if anything, at these price tags, I'd probably be interested in the Kozlow side, just because he's a 10th planet guy, has very good wrestling, very good grappling. And, Simon, there's just still a ton of question marks, really, about both these guys. So at 6,900, I think it'd be worth some shots, as far as a pump league goes for Kozlow. But I think Simon does end up getting the knockout at some point. I don't think Simon's the worst play in the world either. So, I think all 4 of these fights do win inside the distance, and all 4 of these are great fights to target. Outside of Dalcha, I'm not going to have a ton of Dalcha, but the first 2 especially, both sides there. Getting to the core plays, Edmund Shahbazyan, 9,400. Talked about him a little bit. It's a big step down. He's 25 years old. He's a guy that had a ton of hype. This is a fight he really should win. If he does not win this fight, there's some problems. Edmund should. I think he can knock out Dalcha on the feet. Dalcha coming off a knockout loss. I think he can even mix in takedowns as well. I think it'd be very wise to mix in takedowns. Make Dalcha work here. And I go back to Dalcha's last fight against Soriano, where Dalcha started to wrestle with Soriano, and his corner was yelling at the top of their lungs just because he can't do it. He can't wrestle. Or else he's going to gas out. He's just not built to go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes. He doesn't have the cardio to do it. So I would like to see Edmund go out there and make Dalcha work. And if he does that, I think Dalcha's going to tire out bad. We've seen it the past couple fights. He's getting very, very tired. And I think Edmund can finish him, honestly, early. Or if he does tire out, that being Dalcha, I think Edmund can finish him late as well. So I like Edmund inside the distance. And at 9,400, I think he has takedown upside and good finish upside here as well. Next, we have 8,300, Eric Silva. Yeah, I think it's another really good fight to target in general. It's like minus 170 to end inside the distance around there. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of wrestling on either side, lots of grappling, lots of control time from either side. I think there's a good chance from a, submission on either side. I think Silva's potentially live for like a TKO as well, has really good ground and pound. But yeah, I do end up on the Silva side myself, but this is a fight I'm going to be pretty high on. But yeah, I like Silva. He's 35 years old. He's making his debut. The big problem with Silva is he's just not fought the best competition, but he looks really good. And TJ Brown's a guy that just continues to just drop the ball, make terrible mistakes inside the cage. And, Silva, I like the grappling. I like the ground and pound. And I think he has a good chance to beat TJ Brown here. Brown's been finished 6 times in his career. 3 of those come by knockout. 3 of those come by sub. I like Silva to win this fight inside the distance, and I think the winner of this fight does score very well. So I'll be playing both sides, but my lean is Silva here at 8,300. And then we talked about Vinicius Salvador a little bit at 8,900. Daniel de Silva, 0-3 in the UFC. I'm shocked he's getting a 4th shot. I think it's because he is Charles Oliveira's, I believe they're in the same gym, and that's got to be why, because, De Silva's just looked awful, thus far in the UFC. He's shown some flash here and there, but, he's 0-3, and he's getting finished in all 3 of those losses at flyweight. Just not a good look. He got finished by, Francisco Figueiredo in the first round, not a good look. He got finished by Altamirano, who's not really a finisher, in the very first round. Salvador's a finisher. He's very long, very rangy, has a ton of power, and he hits very hard. He hits very hard. And Silva, I don't trust the chin. I don't trust the heart. And he's a guy that just looks for a way out. So I like Salvador to go out there and get the first round finish here on Daniel de Silva. And then Billy Quarantillo, you got to love Billy for DraftKings. 8,600. He's going against Alexander Hernandez. It's an interesting matchup, but, Hernandez is coming down to weight class. I don't like that for Hernandez, a guy that typically does struggle with the cardio as the fight goes on, and he's going against the guy that, he wants to break you in Billy. Billy's going to put it on you from the jump. He's going to pressure forward, get in your face, land a ton of volume, and we've seen Alexander Hernandez break before. We've actually seen him break a couple times. We saw Donald Cerrone get him out of there in that second round. We saw Drew Dober get him out of there. We saw Moicano get him out of there as well in the second round. And I think that could be the case here. I think Hernandez potentially has success early. Billy is pretty hittable. His takedown defense is not great, but, as the fight goes on, I think Billy can kind of break him here. And at 8,600, I think he can put up a really big score and a win here just with the volume. The volume he throws is insane, landing over 7 significant strikes per minute. So I do like Billy to get the late finish here and put up a pretty big score. Getting into our GPP plays here, our tournament plays, we got Paddy Pimblett, and he is 9,100. Made a mistake there. But yeah, 9,100 for Paddy Pimblett. And I like Paddy here in this matchup. Going against Jared Gordon, who the thing about Jared Gordon is when he loses, it's inside the distance, which I think sets up for a nice DK spot here for Paddy Pimblett, who has 3 finishes thus far in the UFC. But yeah, Gordon, his chin's never been good. He's been hurt a lot. He's been knocked out a lot. He's been knocked out 4 times to be exact, 3 times in the UFC there. And he just got submitted against, Dawson, I think 2 fights ago as well. I think Paddy's live for a club and sub. I think Paddy's live for a knockout, and I think if Paddy does get this fight down to the mat, he could potentially, submit Jared Gordon. So I like Paddy Pimblett inside the distance at 9,100. I don't mind it at all. I'm looking for that finish upside there, and I think if he does win, it is by finish. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 8,700. Yeah, Doc is coming off back-to-back knockout losses. Got knocked out by Derek Lewis. No shame in that. Got knocked out by Curtis Blades. No shame in that. Curtis Blades is a guy that, typically a wrestler, but has looked very good in terms of the striking as of late, but I can tell you right now, Rozenstruik hits much harder than Curtis Blades. Rozenstruik, this guy has the death touch. He's knocking guys down with a jab, and I just feel at some point he is going to touch the chin of Chris Daukaus, and I think it's going to be early as well. What I'd like to see out of Rozenstruik, and he's been doing it a lot more lately, is him pressing forward and letting his hands go. When he lets his hands go, he looks very good, very dangerous, and he has success. So I'd like to see him do that. If he does that, it's a first-round KO for Rozenstruik. But this is a heavyweight fight. These guys are going to throw down. Somebody's going down. So you've got to play both sides, but I am on the Rozenstruik side personally at 8,700. Dricus du Plessis, 8,800, a guy that is a finisher here. This guy has finished all of his wins but one. The one win where he did not finish was against Brad Tavares his last time out, and there were many opportunities for that fight to finish. He landed a bunch of big shots. He was very close to getting Tavares out of there. And there's just a ton of red flags on Till. Where's Till's head at? He's looked atrocious as of late, and Duplessis, he's dangerous everywhere. He has power on the feet. If he gets his fight down to the mat, I think he's very live for a sub as well. We saw Till subbed easily by Brunson. We saw him submitted by Tyron Woodley as well. And Dricus Duplessis does have a really good submission game. So, yeah, if he gets the fight down to the mat, I like that for the sub there. But even on the feet, he's going to have more volume than Till, who just doesn't throw anything. I think Till's really reliant on a knockout, especially in this matchup. So, yeah, I don't mind some Dricus Duplessis at 8,800. Raul Rosas Jr., he's sitting at 9,000 here. From a betting perspective, I don't like the line here, but from a DraftKings perspective, you got to think if Raul Rosas Jr. wins this fight, it's going to score a ton. Raul Rosas Jr. in the Contender Series fight, got a lot of takedowns, in all his fights. He's getting takedowns, he's getting control time, and if you got to imagine if he wins this fight, it's going to be a ton of takedowns, especially considering Jay Perrin has a very good get-up game. So if Raul Rosas Jr. wins this fight, he could have the biggest ceiling on the card. So although I'm not completely sold on him in this matchup, from a DraftKings perspective, he's somebody you have to highly consider just because of his style. I mean, he's going out there and shooting takedowns within the first 10 seconds of every fight, and I expect that here as well. So, like me some Raul Rosas Jr. on DraftKings at 9K, I will be having a decent amount there, just because if he wins, it's going to be a big score with lots of takedowns, control time. Don't know if he finishes Perrin, but you don't really need to when he's getting that many takedowns. All right, getting into our live dogs here, a couple stick out. Bryce Mitchell, 7,800. This is a tough fight for me to call. Don't hate the Bryce Mitchell side at all. He's shown phenomenal wrestling. He showed improved striking as well. And, Topuria, he's never officially been taken down in the UFC. Topuria does have a 100% finish rate, but, he's stuffing takedowns against Yusuf Salah, and he's stuffing takedowns against Ryan Hall. I mean, he's going to definitely face Bryce Mitchell here, who's going to be much better at Ryan Hall and Zalal combined in wrestling. So I think Bryce Mitchell can get takedowns here. His grappling's really good. I do have some concerns in terms of on the feet. Topuria does hit very hard, but like I said, Bryce Mitchell has improved that striking a tad. So, but I think this fight's primarily going to play out on the mat. I think the winner of this fight is going to be able to get takedowns, control time, and I see it just being a close fight. I think multiple reversals are in play as well. So yeah, don't mind some Bryce Mitchell at 7,800. I think it's a close fight. Could really go either way, but I do like the dog money there on Bryce Mitchell on DraftKings. Chris Curtis, 7,700. Yeah, there are a lot of reasons to like Curtis here on DraftKings. He averages over 6 significant strikes per minute. I like that. And I think what I like most about Chris Curtis in this matchup in particular is the durability. 38 professional fights for Chris Curtis, only 1 knockout loss for him. And I think that's key here in a fight where these guys are going to stand and bang for 15 minutes up until there is a finish. And, Buckley, he has a lot of power, but, he has been hurt a lot. He has been knocked out several times. He got knocked out by Kevin Holland. He got knocked out by Alessio Di Chirico. He also got knocked out once other time outside the UFC, whereas Chris Curtis, I don't question the durability at all. I like the cardio of Chris Curtis as well. Don't really see any grappling upside from either guy here, but yeah, don't mind some Chris Curtis. I think people are kind of low on him after his last loss to Jack Hermanson, which is fine. But prior to that, Chris Curtis was the next big thing, and now he's getting a full camp here to work with, and I think he's very live to win this fight. So 7,700 for Chris Curtis. I don't mind him as a dog. Chris Dock is 7,500. You got to play some. I mean, this guy's a heavyweight. He hits hard. He throws with volume. Rosenstruck has been Frozenstruck at points where he doesn't throw anything. It wouldn't shock anybody if Chris Daukaus went out there and knocked out Rosenstruck, who just got knocked out by Alexander Volkov, a guy in Volkov who typically doesn't have a ton of power, and Daukaus does. So you got to have a lot of this fight. I think somebody's going down in the first round. Chris Daukaus as a dog is not the worst thing in the world. And then lastly, Daniel Da Silva, 7,300. I mean, the fight doesn't go to decisions, minus 750 on DraftKings. And that should tell you right there. I mean, 32 of 33 of these guys' fights have ended inside the distance. Salvador's a guy that's been finished a lot as well. I mean, Salvador's been finished twice by knockout, once by sub. And Daniel Da Silva, although I don't think he's the most skilled fighter in the world, especially after 2 minutes, he does have power. He does have good at spinning attacks, and he does have a solid submission game. So, Salvador could potentially go out there and get finished early, and if he does, Da Silva probably breaks the slate. I do think Salvador is the one to get that finish, but I think somebody's getting finished here, so I'll have a piece of Da Silva at 7,300 for sure. Pump plays, a couple that stuck out here. Jan Blachowicz, 7,000. He hasn't looked great as of late, but You know, he has a lot of power, that legendary Polish power. If he does land a big shot, he could potentially get a knockout here. I'm not in love with the main event, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to have a ton of it, which kind of sucks. But if anything, I'm looking at Blachowicz down low just in case he does go out there and get the knockout. But nothing I'm too confident in. And then Stephen Koslow, 6,900. We talked about the fight a little bit. It's around minus 230 to end inside the distance. Just a lot of question marks on Simon. You know, very untested guy. And Koslow is a 10th planet guy. 6 wins, 6 submissions, and all 6 in the first round. Don't mind taking a shot at first round submission upside there with Koslow, but I do think Simon eventually gets him out of there by knockout. Lastly, the fade, it's Magomed Ankalaev for me, 9,200. I mean, he doesn't do anything. I mean, he doesn't do anything. He's going to go out there. They're going to stare at each other, and I think he could mix in takedowns here or there, but you know, even then, you know, I just really question the upside of Magomed Ankalaev. Is he going to knock out Blachowicz? I mean, potentially, but this is a fight where I could see it as being, you know, so boring, going to decision, and him putting up like 80 in a win. And I do think he's going to have some solid ownership as well. So for that reason, my fade is going to be Magomed Ankalaev this week. But yeah, we did it, guys. Solid card. Very solid card. Looking forward to it. Like I said, if you want some extra content or want to support me more, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Got the stats, the targets, the rankings, projections, lineup optimizer, all that good stuff. Article will be out on Wednesday or Thursday as well. Just a lot going on over there. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and best of luck for UFC 282. Should be a very fun card. See you guys later.